So today I'm going to talk about how to create usability for emergent technology and through the light of looking at challenges with designing for touchless interaction, because that's what the company I work for, that's what we do. Before I start, I just kind of want to define the different terms here. I mean, usability, emerging, and innovation, they're all pretty loaded terms that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So just for me to get a grasp of what the crowd here is like, I would like to know who in here works with usability or works with UX design, UI design, whatever it is. Please raise a hand. So can anyone in here help me just define what usability is? I mean, one obvious thing is an interface that is useful for the user. We can intuitively understand what you're supposed to do by just looking at the screen itself. That's how I would describe it. Does anyone else have any input on? Maybe not. Okay, fine. It's also something that could be very familiar. You would look at elements where you would draw on people's mental model of how something would work and then design something that looks very similar to what you expect. The standard example is, how a doorknob is designed. Walking through a door, do you know whether you're supposed to push or pull it, in which side, in which direction? I mean, that's a very concrete example of usability. Emerging innovation. I haven't quite told you yet what Crunchfish does, but you will see in a little while. But what we do is emerging innovation. We have two technologies right now that are very different to how we interact. We're not doing touchscreens. In fact, if you look at here, we're just interacting with devices through the air. And we can do this from up to 6 meters away in some instances. So it's a new way of having consumers use something. And that's very challenging. And that's kind of what I mean with emerging innovation. It's something that's very new in the field of where people don't quite know how to interact with it yet. So Crunchfish, we are sitting up here in the building. We like to call it the penthouse because we're on the top floor. We're Malmö based. We've been around since 2010. We started out making apps, and then we discovered touchless technology, where we develop different algorithms for how you can interact with devices using gestures in the air, where our technology is very heavily patented, as you might draw conclusions from. We also license our technology to OEMs, mainly customers within China and different parts of Asia, where they have their smartphones or their tablets, and we put our technology in there and let them do various things with it. We also license this to app developers and creative agencies, which all those three markets presents various challenges to me as a user experience designer, because there are different ways of interacting. They have different goals and different clients, and just designing in Chinese for the Asian market. I mean, I'm just ugh, please help me with that. So this is just some of the use cases that we've conceptualized, and some of them we've made commercial, some of them are just ideas that are still in the making. So if you think about how we might translate complex technology into simple language that even an illiterate child can comprehend, that's kind of how I think about our technology, because our technology is very complex. There's a lot of stuff happening under the surface, and being in a team of developers, you hear words such as false positives, false negatives, exposure, frame of rate, neural, I don't even remember what it's called, neural networks, and all of these words that I'm just I don't know what they mean. Now I know what they mean, but when I first started out, I was like, have no clue what this is, and how can we expect then anyone outside of our company to understand what this even means? So it's been a big challenge to just take this and merge it down into something that actually makes sense to other people outside of our company. So the way our technology is constructed is that we look at different images of different hands, and then we translate that into algorithms where we can detect the technology from a distance. And it's challenging because a lot of people have different types of hands. We have different skin colors. We interact in different settings. Like, you can have a very noisy, busy background, or you can have very poor lighting conditions, and all of this stuff that in itself presents challenges to us. So when you take all that and you want to make it very, very easy, we first of all just started out by breaking it down into simple gestures. So this is the basis of our Touchless A3D SDK. We have 5 different poses: the open hand, closed fist, V sign, thumbs up, face detection, and then we can do up to 3 poses at the same time, which we can detect, as you can see here. When I started out, we could do a lot more. We could do the OK sign, we could do the L sign, we could do the mute, and some other things. And I was just kind of like, well, do we need them? When are we ever going to do this? Yes, sure, you can mute a song by doing that pose, or yeah, you can turn off your media player by doing that, but is it really worth spending all that resources into developing something that has that little impact and that little value? Because it takes us roughly 6 months to train one of these poses that we have here to be commercial, to be something that you can actually use on the market. So I was pushing very hard for just narrow it down to the main poses that we can do the most things with. And we decided that that was these 5 poses here. With these, you can instead, rather than focus on quantity, you can focus on the quality, and actually what can we do with these. One thing you can do is if you add time to a specific pose, then you create a gesture. So starting out here with the thumbs up, if you do this to something, you can like it, or you can verify it, you can confirm it, you can love something. So we were like, that's kind of, we love things at our company. And this is still a static pose. So this is still something that you see in like one very different, like we're not moving things yet, or we're not doing anything else but just adding a certain time. Like this can mean something. This could potentially mean something else because I'm holding the pose for longer. So that's how we create variation. Hold, which is just presenting your hand like this, is something that we use to kind of say hi to the device, to wake it up, to be like, okay, hello, here I am. Or maybe it can be to stop something, because this is a very intuitive way to say stop. Like if you want to pause, stop, or pause. It depends on how you want to put it together. The pose, the V sign here, given that we have a lot of customers from Asia, this was one of the demands to be able to take photos with the V sign. We thought that all the Asians took photos like this, but then we discovered that actually they want to take it like this, by tweaking it on the side. And so we had to retrain our detector slightly to be able to cater to this instance. And sometimes they even want to do this. And I mean, this is almost a different pose for us because we have to rotate it so far. So we were like, okay, well, maybe you just have to be happy by having it like this instead. Face detection. When you walk up to a screen, it's quite nice to have the screen just tell you, hello, I see you. or whatever you want it to be. So face detection is something that we also use for interaction when it's something that's very close. It doesn't make as much sense when it's interaction from like 4 or 5 meters away, but if you're holding the device and you pull it up to your face, you can use this to say hi to the user. You could also combine poses into gestures. So if you add one pose to another pose, then that can mean something as well. So here for the grab, we have combined the hand and the fist into a grab like this. We use this in our camera applications, for instance, to take photos. We use it to set the timer, or for quantitative things where you might want to count something, like you're very deliberately holding something with your hand. You can do the grab to pick something up, move it around, drop it. We have here, the drop, which is just the opposite of the grab. You just let go. We also do the wink. The wink is similar to the grab, but it's faster. It's like an open hand, a closed hand, an open hand, which is a shorter time duration. I just want to say that if anyone want to stop me, if you have any ideas or any questions, or yes? Okay, so the question was if anyone can just use this right away without having to train the camera. In our photo application, we've actually made an app that is specifically for the end user. And so as an end user, you never have to do anything more than just interacting.
With all issues?
Yeah, with our technology. Yeah, but when we license our technology to the OEMs or to our app developers, then they will insert the SDK into their APIs and connect it however they want, and they would have to specify which gestures they want to attach to which functions. And then we help them a lot along the way, because we have a lot of experiences. We know that, for instance, it doesn't make sense to do the open hand followed by the thumbs up, because it's just not an intuitive way. It's just, it doesn't feel right. It's recognized. Yeah, exactly. Whereas we would like to promote the use cases where you do the open hand, you close it, or you swipe. So if that answers your question. We also do poses where you can add spatial space, whatever you call it, to it, where you can take a pose and move it around in the air. And that can mean things. So for instance, we actually just made the swipe really, really good. And we want to say that it's now the best on the market, which we're very, very happy about. So the swipe is just moving your hand across the screen. So if this is a swipe, it's just interacting over the camera here to be able to browse through like a photo gallery or whatever it might be. And the swipe is different because in the swipe, you detect the actual movement. It's not so much about the specific poses. You can move anything with the swipe. Like I could move my body across the screen and it would swipe, or I can just do it with a finger and it would swipe. It's just more us being able to tell this is the direction that an object moves in. We have a wave, which is similar to the swipe. The wave we will use, for instance, if someone calls you and you're like, yeah, I don't want to talk to you. And you go, no. And then we also have the move, which we usually connect to the grab and drop, where you pick something up, we can track wherever you are in space, and then drop it. This is meant to be so that it will only detect gestures when you do specific gestures like towards it. Okay. But since this setting here is actually one of the most challenging settings you could actually have, because there's so much going on. There's so much here that it can interpret as being gestures. Like it might think that, okay, maybe you are a V sign. I mean, you don't look like a V sign, but there are certain lines that we use to train our detectors. So, yes, of course, people might be influenced to interact like differently. Our goal is obviously to have it only detect when you specifically tell it to detect. But it is challenging to train it. And I think that's the best answer I have right now. Yeah. This was a question that I got from, Carl here, actually, who's my boss. Thinking about which gestures that are relevant for our Touchless HDD SDK, both now and looking forward. And so, in respect of this, I was mainly thinking about what is it we can do right now? Like, what are the poses that we have, the ones that I just went through with you, and then thinking about what are the current trends happening in the fields. Like, there's a lot of talk about virtual reality, like artificial intelligence, like self-driving cars. And actually, self-driving cars is something that we are quite close to in terms of our detectors and technology itself, because in order for that to work, you need to be able to detect different images and like different like objects that you see, because if there is a big bag on the road, you need to know if it's a bag or a rock. Should the car diverge from it or should it run over it? And that's like a similar like challenge that we have as well, where like you said, like it can't properly detect all of the hands in all types of backgrounds. So we need to get to that point. So we're looking very closely at how they do it in terms of training their applications better. And for this, we have a lot of like different little use cases that we've developed. First of all, we look at whether the device is docked or whether you're holding it in your hand. We mainly interact with smart devices, so smartphones and tablets. So one of the main concerns that we get from our customers is battery use. Since we are using the camera always needs to be on in order to detect our interaction. So we need to be very aware to either turn the camera on and off with specific gestures, or we need to think about ways where you can always interact with Touchless, but then creating shortcuts like docking the device. Because if you have a constant power supply, then obviously you could always keep the camera on running. We started thinking more about how you could combine Touchless with touch and with voice. This example here is just giving feedback in the terms of sound. So if you do a thumbs up, you'll get a little visual cue on the screen that says awesome, and then a little bing. Or if you do a V sign, you might get a whistle and some kind of feedback. But what we really want to look into is, what if you're holding the device and you touch something and then you perform a gesture on it? Or if you say something to the device and then perform a gesture, and what that could mean. And we haven't quite looked into that too much yet. So that's a very interesting field for us. This was just a little drawing that we made for a music player. If the music became louder, you could either raise your hand up or down. You could push your hand towards the screen or further away. The louder we get, the larger the dot will get. This is just basic UI design. This was a fun project that we had two, exjobbare working for us, where they developed a touchless retail experience and a touchless real estate house matchmaking quiz. So this was their real estate experience, where you would have a big touchless store window, where if you walked up to it, you would get face detection. That would show you this. It would say, "Hi there, wave your hand to begin the search for the perfect outfit." You would wave the hand to the screen, and then it would present you with like different options, where you would select if you were a male or a female with a push. And then it would give you clothes where if you flipped over the hand, or they actually did the grab and the flip. where the grab was kind of the initial interaction that wouldn't mean anything in their use case, but then when you added an additional gesture to it, it would mean something. So the grab and the flip, and then you would get some reviews, so you would see the price, and you get the recommendations. You could also grab the object and drag it down here to save it to your shopping cart, and then that would connect via Bluetooth, which is our other technology that I'm not really going to talk about, but it would magically appear in your phone that will send a ping into the storefront owners inside. And this was, like a large screen thing where we're thinking about maybe that could be a use case, because then you would interact from a distance, and it's a screen that you wouldn't want to touch. There's also, TV, laptop, all those devices that you could head into if you wanted to.
What's the process for?
That's a really good question. So the question was, what's the process of attaching gestures to different functions and how we do it? We've decided that it doesn't make sense to ask users like what they want, because no one has interacted with this technology before, and so whenever we ask someone, we've noticed that we don't really get any valuable input. Like, maybe it's the questions we asked, maybe it's how we set it up, but since this is so new, like anything that we feed them is just what we're gonna get back. Like it's just like the users repeating the ideas we already have. So we are kind of experts in the field. So what we do rather is to come up with like gestures that we think make sense for different scenarios, where we think of gestures we give them like a personality in a way. So for instance, with the thumbs up, we've decided that this is something that we use to like something or confirm something or to verify something. And so we would use it in instances where you would actually do that. And then the trick is just more to get people to understand how to do the actual like gestures. Like with the thumbs up, we've noticed that a lot of people want to do the Facebook thumbs up, which when we try to read it is a different gesture, because this is not the same as this. We need to see the lines here in order to interpret the thumb. Or I want to tweak it so you can do a thumbs up like this, so it's not as static as from the front. And things like this we've discovered just from observing user behavior.
Did you consider socio-cultural differences as well? For example, the thumbs up means up your ass in some languages.
It certainly does. So the question was if we consider cultural like differences with our gestures, and yes, we do to a certain point. Like we probably wouldn't suggest a thumbs up to the Arab world because, of what you pointed out. Then maybe we would just talk about the open hand, the closed hand, the V sign, the face with them, or the swipe, or whatever it is. The V sign we almost exclusively use for Asia, because in the Western world, we don't take photos like this. I mean, of course people can if they want, but we're not as interested here in triggering photos with a V sign as you would be in Asia. Like there, it's like a huge thing.
Doing that with photos?
It's victory. Churchill. Peace. I don't know. Maybe someone else has an answer for that.
Have you thought about the fact that you do this makes it kind of performative for other people looking at you using your device? Like, is that part of?
So the question was if we have thought about this as being a like performative like gesture, like when other people can see you doing something. And yes, I mean, we only see that as a benefit, because as of now, Touchless is so new that if someone does this to their device, it kind of creates a little buzz around. Like, it's like, what is going on? Like, what is happening? Like, people want to try it, and it's just this whole, it like, you just very easily connect to the people around you just by showing physically, the physical gestures themselves. And also, we would like to say too that performing the actual like gesture creates a deeper emotional response in yourself as well, because it is more like you like it more than just tapping a button. So the question was if we've looked at sign language and how to combine touchless interacting with that. We haven't done it quite that much, to be honest, just because of limitations to our technology. Since it takes so long for us to develop the specific gestures, it's quite limiting to act with sign language with just 5 poses. So, not so much. Because we don't see it as the same way. Like, these are more, how do I want to describe? Like, it's not a complete language like sign language would be. This was a quick little exercise that we did. We were like, okay, well, what if Snapchat was touchless? You would do a wink to take a photo. What if Facebook was touchless? Instead of pressing the button, you would do a thumbs up and just be like, yep. It will take a little touchless selfie of you at the same time, where you would have a picture of you taking the photo. This is just, again, goofing around, face detection, like when you take the photo, adding different masks to the screen. This was an exercise we did where I told everyone to think of a person, a place, and a thing, and then combine them. So this group got to combine an Italian with a train and a vending machine. And then they had to create a little user scenario of that, of how you can make this interaction touchless. So the Italian here, Franco, he gets thirsty on the train. He walks up to the vending machine that tells him that Coca-Cola drinks are complimentary today for anyone who likes Coca-Cola. Franco raises his hand to do a thumbs up as instructed. To his big surprise, he doesn't even have to touch the screen that he imagines others before him have touched. Franco gets so excited that he likes the Coca-Cola campaign several times to get everyone in his wagon to drink. This group hated me for this. They got disabled gym and bus, where they came up with a scenario where the guy in the person had to do a gesture to notify the bus driver that he was disabled and that he would need extra assistance in order to get to the specific place. So, thinking about how we better could integrate our solution into customer applications. When I first started out, I was thinking about touchless as something that you wouldn't have to have anything on the screen. Since you're not touching the screen, you wouldn't have any sort of feedback, or you could just do whatever you wanted and act in complete freedom. But then, naturally, we discovered that that was not the case, that with touchless it's actually extra important to get feedback in order to be able to perform the things you want to do. So we started looking at the photo gallery. This is one of the latest things we've done, where we have the swipe. This swipe we see as something that you would use to change things. You go next, you would go back. It's something that we use to organize things spatially. It's explorative. You can search or navigate with this. So starting out, it's important to teach the user where the camera is, because this here is what you interact with. So we started out with just like a simple swipe over camera that would have a little shimmer that would just move in the same speed as we consider the ideal swipe speed. So the user would just intuitively want to swipe in this region here. We have motion detection. These are the instances when we see movement, but it's not enough movement to know that an actual swipe has taken place. So if someone swipes here, we saw that something happened in the screen, but they didn't swipe far enough that we could know that they wanted to swipe in this direction or in the other direction. So we're just giving feedbacks to say, hey, we see you, but we don't know what you want to do, so please do it again. And we're trying to do it in a way that doesn't distract from the content itself, because in a photo gallery you actually do want to observe the photos.
Can I ask a question? Is that how you respond to the system if you have a multi-user situation? So I do this and someone else do the same thing. What happens then? More than one gesture.
So the question was if you have a multi-user situation and you have 2 gestures happening at the same time. then how you respond to that. This is very specific to the photo gallery use case, but it's a similar method that we use. So if we can't quite interpret what it is you're doing, you'll see some form of visual feedback. So if we see this on the screen and we're just like, what is that? Then yeah, you would get some indication that will tell you that we see that you did something, but we don't know what it is. And this could also be triggered just from a false positive, or like something that like someone maybe walk here, but it's not an intended swipe. And then we have the instances where for the photo case, or for the photo gallery application, we will lock the direction in which you swipe. And this is because we don't want to limit the user to have to swipe like this around. So you can swipe like this as you want, or you can swipe like that as you want. And we're just locking it with like simple indicator of this is the direction you're going in, or here you're going in this direction. Again, so you can just keep on swiping. And it's just like a very, very short period of time that we will lock it. I think it's like 0.7 seconds or something, or maybe a little bit more. And then thirdly, if you're moving your device too much, then obviously we might get a lot of false positives if you're standing like this. So we just turn off the detection altogether when you're moving it around, and give you some kind of indication of feedback that it's moving. We have the camera use case, where we use a similar type of logic. We have the hold, that's kind of like the hello stop. It's more of a state change type of thing, like you just indicate on the screen. You do the grab, it's like you set something, or in this case with the camera, you set the timer, and then you release it, and it will take a photo of you. And then here is to like the photo that you have. So for all of you that have an iPhone, you can try our technology for free using GoCam. We do the similar interaction here. You hold up your hand, you grab to set the timer. I would like to change it so that you grab, that will change to video, and then you wink to take a photo, and that will give you an automatic timer of maybe 3 seconds. We've also been playing around with ideas of maybe being able to take multiple pictures at once. We have this to favorite your photos, that will save it as a favorite in your iOS gallery. And then the swipe, we're likely going to add into it as well, because this is our showcase app. This was our April 1st Fool's, or the April Fool's joke. We were going to hire someone to take selfies all day. That was kind of fun. That was it.